Long before England had a name, the island was home to Celtic tribes who lived in scattered villages, spoke their own languages, and followed customs rooted deeply in nature and tradition. They were skilled farmers, metalworkers, and warriors who formed the earliest cultural identity of the region. Their lives changed when the Roman Empire arrived in 43 CE under Emperor Claudius. The Romans built bridges, roads, baths, and fortified towns, bringing order and structure to the land. For almost 4 centuries, Britain became part of a vast empire, connected to distant lands. Roman rule introduced new laws, trade networks, and military protection, but when the Romans suddenly withdrew around 410 CE, the island was left to face new waves of change. Without Roman leadership, Britain became vulnerable to attacks and migrations. Soon, warrior tribes from across the North Sea, the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, began settling on the island. They came from regions that are now Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands. These groups established several kingdoms, each with its own ruler, armies, and way of life. The lands of Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria, Kent, and others grew in power, often fighting one another for territory. Their culture slowly blended into a shared Anglo-Saxon identity. They brought their own languages, which later evolved into Early English. It is from the Angles that the land gained the name Englerland, meaning land of the Angles, which eventually became England. During this time, new laws were created, new settlements were built, and Christianity spread across the region, bringing literacy and written records. For a while, these kingdoms grew stronger, but a new force arrived from Scandinavia. In the late 8th century, Viking raiders from Denmark and Norway began attacking coastal towns and monasteries, drawn by wealth and land. Over time, the Vikings established permanent settlements and took control of large parts of eastern and northern England. This region became known as the Danelaw, where Viking customs, language, and law were practiced. The Vikings and Anglo-Saxons fought many battles, but there were also periods of peace and cooperation. The blending of their cultures added new words, trade practices, and traditions that remain part of English life even today. Despite the conflicts, Anglo-Saxon rulers gradually pushed back the Viking influence. Kings like Alfred the Great and his successors strengthened their armies, built defenses, and formed alliances. By the early 10th century, the idea of a single English kingdom began to take shape. In 927 CE, King Aethelstan succeeded in uniting the various territories, both Anglo-Saxon and Viking, under his rule. This marked the first time England became one united kingdom instead of a collection of independent states. His reign brought stability, law codes, and a stronger sense of shared identity among the people. But England's story did not settle there. In 1066, a dramatic event changed the course of history. William, the Duke of Normandy, claimed that the English throne belonged to him. He crossed the English Channel with his army and defeated King Harold at the famous Battle of Hastings. This moment, known as the Norman Conquest, reshaped England completely. Norman lords replaced Anglo-Saxon nobles, castles were built across the land, and a new system of government was introduced. The English language absorbed thousands of French words, and society took on a new structure that blended Anglo-Saxon and Norman traditions. Through all these centuries of migrations, conflicts, and cultural changes, England evolved step by step. It was never built in a single moment. Instead, it grew through the interactions of Celts, Romans, Anglo-Saxons, Vikings, and Normans, each leaving their mark on the land. The England known today is the result of this long journey, shaped by resilience, diversity, and the power of many different peoples who called the island their home.